Sea of Stars is the hit indie game that dominated the indie scene last year, even if that really is only because Silksong got delayed again, but let's not worry about that. The game is a turn-based RPG where you play as the Solstice Warriors, who are on a quest to train themselves up enough so that they can battle the Dweller of Woe during the eclipse, eliminating the minions of the Fleshmancer once and for all. And yeah, the game is really good. The world is huge and a joy to explore, the plot is engaging, the gameplay is addictive and challenging, the pixel art is stunning, the soundtrack is full of bangers, and the characters are lovable and the boss fights are just, well, they're awesome. I just wanted to get all my praises out of the way now because the rest of the video is going to take on a very negative tone. But before I go and spoil the game, I highly recommend that you yourself go give it a try if you're an RPG fan or just a big fan of indie games. Indie teams work really hard and can always use the extra support, you know? The game is fantastic, and I loved it so much that I even took the time to get the Platinum Trophy.
But aren't the majority of the trophies tied to the story?
How about you shut the fuck up and watch the video, okay? So now you're probably thinking, if you have so many great things to say about the game, what could possibly hurt it so much that you felt the need to make a video about it? And the answer is, the writing. It's so unfortunate, but the game suffers from what I call the Garl Problem. The Garl Problem is defined as the following: when major aspects of a story are dependent on a mishandled character, resulting in both the character and the story suffering as a result. The worst example of this, of course, being the titular Garl. So now, I'm going to go through each of the major characters, and I'm going to break down how each of them contributes to the Garl Problem, and how their lack of development, or the mishandling of their character, ultimately ruins the story. Since Garl is the most glaring issue in the whole game, we'll save him for last. So let's start with Seraï. Seraï is a ninja, pirate, cyborg, and I know what you're thinking. That's the most generic and laughably bad attempt to make a cool character. And you're right. But also, Seraï is really fucking cool. I mean, come on! A ninja pirate cyborg who makes portals? She's awesome! And Seraï is one of the best characters in the whole game, too. She's cool, fun to use, and she fits nicely into the story. Unlike a lot of other characters, she also gets a lot of small moments where she interacts with the other party members. I especially like this one where she reveals she's secretly the pirate captain cliché that we've been venturing with the whole game, and everyone just kind of knows because it's obvious. It's a fun moment, and the way Seraï reacts is just really adorable. The only real problem I have with Seraï is that she brings her goofy crew along with her, so let's talk about the crew real quick. There's Yolanda, she's funny and has a lot of middle names, but her main gimmick is that she breaks the fourth wall, and it's really funny. And it doesn't ruin major moments either. I love it when she interjects herself into a conversation right after the major plot twist of the story. Right after Erlina and Brugaves turn on the Solstice Warriors, she comes up and makes a joke about how tropey it is, and it doesn't kill the moment at all. Like, genuinely, what were the creators thinking with this one? Why in the world would you want to undermine such a key story moment in such a shitty way? And this is the exact type of writing issue that plagues Sea of Stars throughout its entire runtime. Next we have Valtrade and... oh my god! Ew! What the fuck is that? Holy shit! Shave that shit off! Oh my god! And lastly we have Keenathan. He wears 2 eye patches instead of 1. That's it. And I like Keenathan. He's a funny guy. But yeah, besides the crew, I really don't have a single problem with Seraï, is what I really want to say. But there is one moment that kind of ruins her entire character for me. So let's talk about that. During the battle against the Dweller of Strife, Seraï berates Resh'an for not helping Zale and Valere. For context, Resh'an is pretty much as close to God as it gets within the Sea of Stars world. He's immortal, he can bend time, enter other dimensions, pretty much all powerful in all the ways that matter. He only agrees to assist a group under certain conditions, the most important of which being that he can't battle the Dwellers. Resh'an makes a deal with the Fleshmancer hundreds of years ago where they agreed not to interfere in each other's universes to maintain balance. So it seems pretty fair to me, and like I said, they all agreed to his terms. And yet, As Zale and Valere start to lose against the Dweller, Seraï realizes they can't win and gets angry with Resh'an for not helping. Resh'an reminds her that the group agreed to his terms before he joined the group, which is true, but Seraï doesn't listen and uses one of Resh'an's vials to attack the Dweller anyway. This action single-handedly summons the Fleshmancer back into their world and unleashes his wrath onto countless universes. Now, this moment is obviously bad on Seraï's part, but considering the circumstances, it makes sense why she felt she needed to act. There's no way she could have known what would happen, especially considering the stakes in the moment. She's not irredeemable here, but she's never reprimanded. And not only is she never reprimanded, but the moment is never even brought up again. This issue could have been solved so easily just by having a couple moments where Seraï expresses regret for her actions and talks it out with the others. But no, the story just kind of continues as if nothing happened, even though releasing the Fleshmancer not only sets back the work of Resh'an and the Solstice Warriors like hundreds of years, but it literally fucking kills Garl. But nobody cares. The story just moves on, and to make it worse, as if the game just wanted to rub dirt in the wound, during the next battle with the Dweller, Seraï tells Resh'an that he, quote, better not try to weasel out of the fighting again. Like, what? How is any of this his fault? And it's just so infuriating, because it really is like the game just doesn't even care. It really makes it hard to sympathize with Seraï at this point. And this is exactly what I mean when I say the Garl Problem. A major story beat is contingent on a character that's grossly mishandled, making both the character and the story completely fall flat. Next up is Resh'an. Now Resh'an is easily the best character in the entire game. He has the most lore and is easily the most interesting character in the whole cast. His backstory with the Fleshmancer is super interesting, and the small pieces of lore we do get about him are really cool, and they leave you wanting to know more. So how did the game drop the ball on what seems like such a slam dunk awesome character? Well, my friends, strap in and I'll tell ya. When exploring the spires, Resh'an and the party learned that Resh'an's Great Eagle form was actually gained by siphoning the lifespans of these bird people. The Great Eagle is a core part of Resh'an's identity, and as a result, a major figure in the Sea of Stars world. During a flashback, we learned that Resh'an and the Fleshmancer used to be inseparable friends, and the Great Eagle form was a gift from the Fleshmancer before he had supposedly turned evil. This revelation proves that the Fleshmancer's evil deeds started way before Resh'an thought, while also tarnishing one of his most cherished memories. This moment of course shakes Resh'an to his core, and he leaves the party to investigate the truth about his past with the Fleshmancer. Now, all this is fine. It's not only good storytelling, but it also builds Resh'an's character. So what's wrong? Just one tiny, teensy little thing. We never see Resh'an again. And no, I'm not kidding. This is the actual last time that we see Resh'an in the entire game. He never comes back. The most interesting character in the game, and arguably the most important, is just cut from the remainder of the game. It's so depressing and underwhelming. The only time we do get to see him again is briefly for a couple of seconds during the cutscene at the end of the game, if you got the true ending. I can only assume that the reason for this decision was maybe to save the rest of his story for a sequel, but it leaves this game's story so horribly underdeveloped and unsatisfying. No, you know what? I'm being too nice. Actually, I'll cut the shit. This decision is fucking stupid. Why in the world would you cut a major character completely out of the game, unceremoniously, in the middle of the story? I just can't even begin to understand why they thought this was a good idea. Like, yes, please replace the best character with a lifeless puppet for the rest of the game. It's not like I was invested anyway. Fuck. Deep breath, deep breath. Okay, I'm gonna talk about Erlina and Brugaves next, because they get the worst treatment out of any of the other characters. Erlina and Brugaves are Solstice Warriors that experienced the loss of all the other Solstice Warriors when they were children. This is clearly awful, and it acts as their motivation to turn on Moraine and join up with the Acolytes. And actually, hold on, can we talk about the Acolytes for a second? These guys are set up as the game's major antagonists from the very beginning, and we see scenes of them doing evil plotting interspliced throughout the game, but once the Fleshmancer is free, they just disappear. I mean, they literally just walk into this portal and we never see them again. What the fuck? Why? You could literally just take them out of the game and it doesn't change at all. Why even bother? Whatever, I guess. Back to Erlina and Brugaves. Erlina and Brugaves want to put an end to Solstice Warriors because they lost the people they cared about to the Dwellers, and they don't want any more children to be forced to become Solstice Warriors and throw away their lives. This makes perfect sense, and the betrayal is a powerful story moment, or it would have worked if it wasn't for that. So they want to save future generations from the burdens of being Solstice Warriors, and the solution to this is clearly releasing the Fleshmancer and creating more Dwellers. The plan makes sense. Except, no it fucking doesn't. How in the world does this help your cause? Your plan to stop people from suffering at the hands of Dwellers is by making more Dwellers and getting everyone killed? How does this plan make any sense? And to top it off, Brugaves has their gall to cry and say he doesn't want to leave Zale and Volaire when he goes into a different universe. Because, oh yeah, he gets his mind wiped by the Fleshmancer and is sent to another universe. But like, then why even bother doing all the evil shit in the first place? I don't understand, and it's never elaborated on. Now, Erlina makes more sense. She's in love with Brugaves and just wants to do whatever it makes him happy. She even sacrifices her life to the Fleshmancer so that Brugaves can go fuck off to the middle of nowhere. But it still begs the question, what was the point? Not only does their plan make no sense, but their actions almost seem to be the literal antithesis of what they believe. The story chest would have benefited so much from more time spent exploring Erlina and Brugaves. The game desperately needed to expand on their characters and their motivations, especially since Erlina is the final boss of the game, and it just leaves the final battle feeling so anticlimactic. I hope we do get a sequel, and if I had my pick, it would be focused on Erlina and Brugaves, seeing their pasts, what drove them to do what they did, why Erlina cares so much about Brugaves, what happened to Brugaves' common fucking sense, and I'm genuinely interested to see where their story goes from this point, but I have a feeling we'll never get that. And with that, we've arrived at the end of the video. We're gonna discuss Garl! Woohoo! Now, you might be thinking, Kingu, you're not even gonna talk about the main characters? And to that I say, I am talking about the main character. Yes, Zale and Volaire are the player characters, but using the word character for these two is a bastardization of the word. This guy is solar damage, and she's lunar damage. That's it. And no, I'm not being facetious or overreacting. The only character trait is that they both really love Garl. No matter how you look at it, Garl's the main character of the story. The entire story surrounds Garl. So who is Garl? Garl is Zale and Volaire's childhood friend. He's a normal child and has no solstice powers. He's lovable, silly, and loves food. Though, somehow, I'm guessing that even if this is your first time ever seeing Garl, you already knew that. He's just a funny fat guy trope, but taken up to 11. But Garl manages to destroy the entire story because the entire plot is focused on him. Don't like a Garl? That's impossible! Everybody loves Garl! But most of all, the game really needs you to love Garl. But what if I let you in on a little secret here? Here. Listen in, because this is important. Garl is annoying. There, I said it. As much as the game will desperately try to gaslight you into liking him, Garl is just unlikable. But the entire plot is contingent on you really adoring Garl, and I'll be the first to admit it. By the end of the game, I did end up coming around on Garl. But his overzealous personality is a hard sell, and him constantly injecting himself into major moments is frustrating. And most of all, the game constantly telling me that I need to like him doesn't help his case. So why does Garl destroy the story? Because every major moment of the story is reliant on the fact that the game cannot take Garl's fat fucking nuts out of its mouth. Why does Garl, who, let me remind you, is not a Solstice Warrior, get a prophecy from the Elder Mist? Because he's Garl. He's just too special and kind to be left out. Why is Garl allowed into battle against the Dweller of Woe where he'd only be a liability? Because he's just too lovable to say no to. Granted, this ends up working out, but it's still frustrating that he constantly just gets his way. Malcolm stops terrorizing the town because Garl wants to be his friend. Garl gets a second prophecy from the Oracle of the Tides because, well, that's just why. Because Garl founds an entire town after the Dweller destroys Brisk, and people are just willing to pack up and move because he's so charismatic. And then, he's so beloved that he gets to name the town. But everyone loves Garl, guys. That's just him. Garl gets another prophecy from the Oracle in the swamp because fuck you. That's why. He likes pears, which proves he has a kind heart. No, I'm not fucking kidding here. But all that is fine. I'm willing to let it slide, but here's where it starts getting genuinely ridiculous for me. After the battle with the Fleshmancer, Garl is killed and is saved by living on a vial of borrowed time. For some reason, Garl now knows how to get to the Fleshmancer's lair and has a master plan to get there. So, let's look at his plan. Garl is able to convince literal gods to open up an interdimensional pathway for him that is so secretive and important that it hasn't been opened in presumably thousands of years. How did he convince him? With pure fucking charisma. Nat fucking 20 here. Garl is so lovable and kind that not even deities can say no to him. In exchange, Garl plans to wake up this giant dragon called the Sleeper and make him return to not being evil anymore. His plan to do this is to bake a giant loaf of bread so when the Sleeper wakes up it smells the bread and it'll not be evil anymore. And not only does this convince the gods to accept his deal, but it also fucking works. The Sleeper thanks Garl and also agrees to become his slave because Garl is just so nice. I can only dispense my disbelief so far. It's insulting, honestly. And it feels like such a slap in the face to any attempt at storytelling to just chalk every single story moment up to, yeah, Garl is just so epic that it works. The story is reliant on the player also loving Garl and believing that all these story beats are satisfying, but it's just not true. Garl feels like an OC from a crappy fanfiction more than an actual character, and the story being so heavily contingent on him makes him come off as extremely unlikable and makes the story feel like a broken mess, which it is, hence the Garl problem. Though, that's not to say Garl doesn't have his moments, because he definitely does. When he gets Zale and Valere into danger as kids, he owns up to his mistake and shields them from the monsters. It's a great moment for him, even though he messed up, and it endears you to him. There's a moment where Garl calls the Fleshmancer a loser, which is hilarious. His relationship with other characters is generally sweet, and the moment at the end of the game where Garl reunites with the two actually makes me emotional. And I love this stupid fucking face that he pulls. These moments work because it's the game showing you why you should care about these characters, instead of just telling you that they're super cool and epic and you have to like them. But unfortunately, for every Garl decking an all-powerful being with a pot lid moment, there is a Garl gets his way for no reason at all moment. Like when Garl gets captured by the Dweller of Woe, even though he promised not to intervene with the Dwellers, or when Garl gets the group thrown away from the island before Elder Mist can finish explaining. It's frustrating to play through, and it feels insulting as a consumer. I mean, Garl's main character syndrome is so powerful that he even gets to come back from the dead. Granted, the way they pulled this off is actually pretty satisfying, but it feels like he never has to deal with any consequences whatsoever.
And with that, we arrive at the end of the video. This was my first ever YouTube video, so I understand it's pretty rough, the editing's choppy, it doesn't look great, but I really wanted to use the opportunity to find my own style, see what content creation is like, get a feel for the program, all that stuff. So if you liked it, I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you watching the video in general, it means a lot. I plan on making more gaming content, gaming analysis content, media in general analysis content in the future. So if that's something you think you would like, or you just kind of like the tone of this video and want to see some more stuff like it, please consider sticking around. I'd really appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day.